It's Preston Fount, F-O-U-T.
Yeah, I know him not well, but I know him. That's not all he does.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Not here.
Working on final details. Working on final details. Yeah, I see a bar here. I got, yeah, okay. There we go. All right. Step will run through this. You guys ready?
Yeah. All right, bring the meeting to order. Just a reminder, if anybody hasn't signed in, if they continue talking, if they would just sign in ahead of time, so otherwise you're gonna wait, sign in. You ready? Any old business?
None. All right.
New business?
All right. We need to do minutes
The
first.
approval of minutes of the last meeting.
Does that be approved? Second. We actually have 2 sets of minutes to be approved. We have May 11th and May 18th. So we should handle those under 2 separate motions.
I move that we approve May 11th minute.
Second. Everybody sitting here?
Any discussion?
That'll be for the public.
Well, okay.
I
think we're fine now.
Yeah, we're good. Thank
Any-
you.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Minutes of the,
May 11th, May 18th.
Move we approve them.
I second that.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All in favor. New business, old business is no old business.
No
New
old
business,
business, new business. The first item under new business is TMS number 145090903, 122 Killdeer Trail, Zone GR5, General Residential, owned by Stephen Compton. Variance request to increase the permitted lot coverage from 35% to 43.9% for the installation of a screened-in porch run in section 2.7.2C. Get down to the documents. Excuse me. Aerial looking down. This is the lot here.
At the bottom, I think.
Now that's for the. There we go. Street view, property, obviously goes back. Staff report, staff comments, staff feels that applicant does not meet all 4 criteria and that hardship is not present. Going over the 4 criteria, extraordinary conditions do not exist on the property. Though this is a pie-shaped lot, it's still 8,276 square feet, 35% lot coverage allows for 2,896 square feet of coverage prior to application for a new Supreme Court. Property already exceeded the permitted lot. Other property in the area do have similar situations. Utilization of the property is not eliminated, but will be only slightly diminished if the homeowners are not able to build the covered patio. Detriment could potentially be caused to other properties by the issuance of this variance on this property. By permitting lot coverage variances, the town will be contributing to the worsening of the lot coverage issue. Lot coverage contributes to the increase of runoff from properties and the speed at which that water runs off. This exacerbates the flooding issues that are existing throughout the area. Though there may not be flooding issues on this particular property, by continuing to approve lot coverage increases, it affects the overall area. I believe that the applicant is here. If you want to come on up to the microphone. This is the applicant's own addressing of those 4 criteria.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you taking the time to entertain this request today. As we're all well aware, the mosquitoes are horrible, and I'm just trying to get a screen-in porch where I can enjoy some of the outside without being true to life. The situation exists that the concrete pads were all in place. They've been there on the lot. Okay, so I'm not adding any impervious area here. I'm just simply trying to put a screen-in porch on that said patio that's already exists. We're not adding that. That was already added before any of this. It was a while back, 4 years back. So the with that being said, there's also another thing that's weird about this lot is the entire back half of the lot is a drainage easement, and the HOA has not. If you could slide down
The other way.
yeah, right there. If you see that 4-foot little kind of fake fence that I have, a wire fence up there, you know, that kind of separates me from the woods, that whole back section, the previous owner as well as myself has been the only one to ever cut the grass there or take care of it. The HOA never took care of that easement area. So it's kind of been confined into my yard. And if you added like that square footage, I'm well within the 35% in considering that. And in fact, I do plan to quick deed that after 7 years of owning the home to make that my own property. But that's the holistic down the road. I'd rather not remove anything that's already in place because ultimately I'm going to claim that property since it's really the woods and an easement. There's nobody else that takes care of it. So I know that's outside the back of my property line, but the very back of my property line is all a drainage easement. It's a hill that kind of goes down, and the grade off of my back goes downhill into that little V spot. All that goes right into the retention pond. So there is none of my drainage touches anybody else's property other than that drainage easement. So obviously my preferred plan would be to get this approved as is without removing anything. But I understand that, you know, if there was a need to, the reason I can't put the screen-in porch on that very edge of the property, if you see how close I am to my neighbor's property line, that fence is literally 2 feet off the edge of that back corner of my property. That covered patio is a pergola where I have my hot tub. And I have a cutoff panel, you know, outside of 5 feet, but inside the required distance to shut off that hot tub. I'm willing to take the plastic cover off of that. That'll give me another 150 square feet back of covered area off. I could take that sidewalk that's a 3 by 30, just a little sidewalk that goes out to the deck out there, and I could cut the slab back. If I have to remove a section, I can get down to about 39% doing all that. But I need to get that screen-in porch kind of more in the center off the back there to kind of give me a buffer off of the neighbor's fence and to be able to use the property effectively. And that's what I'm asking for. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
The wood deck, is that where it's a hot tub?
The one on the really back on the edge of the house, yeah,
Right.
that covered deck is where the hot tub is. And it's just a little
Oh,
plastic.
no, I'm talking about.
That one out there, no, there's a funny story about how that ended up out there. And across when I first bought the house, I had the auger to put the fence in. So I went in and put holes for the deck, and I ended up going a little bit outside my actual property line on that deck. That deck's not covered. It's just a deck that, you know, just overlooks the pond, you know, so that one I have no issue with.
So you're talking about
That patio right there.
patio right there.
That's been there for 4 years. I had a company put it in, and I didn't know there was a permit need to put in a slab. I understand now I understand the drainage, the concerns. I do understand. I'm not making light of that at all. I understand that there is a concern we want to address there. And, that's why I said, if you really look at the way my property is situated, that whole back drainage easement, technically the yard that I've always taken care of, that, it really, I'm not exceeding the footprint if you go off of that kind of space. But if we want to kind of get down to the numbers that officially exist in the property I officially own, I understand that, I could see coming down to 39% would still allow me to do what I want to do, taking the cover off my covered patio, bringing that slab across the back of the house back into just the size of the screened-in porch and taking away that sidewalk. I could concede to those things, but I just really need a screened-in porch otherwise I'm gonna have to move to a house that has one. And every house in this neighborhood had the option to have one built. The owners that had the house, they just didn't have the option put in, but, I'm just trying to get that added to the home. That's all.
How much of the property behind, let's say the property you're calling the drainage, how much of that is flat?
None of it. It's all a slope hill
It's all
down
sloped
toward my
down, so
yard.
It's really all swale.
Yeah, right down to my
It's
yard.
steep.
Yeah, it's a steep drop.
If you could move it down and see the people, you look at that's all.
Yeah, and there's a single owner that owns that whole strip of land, that little tea farm area. He's got a no-kill dog shelter up there and all that stuff. He owns that whole area out on the other side of the woods right there. My neighbor's yard, this fence goes all the way up to that guy's wire fence. Mine stops half of that fence, so it's just kind of an anomaly. And they set my house slab kind of really odd for a cul-de-sac. Usually there's more of an angle between the properties, and they didn't give me that in this layout.
So your property line roughly coincides to the flat surface.
For the most part, but the whole backyard I have slopes off of the back of the house all the way down to that, and it meets the hill that comes down from the back, and they kind of come into a V, and all that goes right out to the retention pond. So, it just kind of, yes, yeah, that's the retention pond. So everything from my property just kind of feeds down into that groove, joins that hill coming down the backside, and goes right into that retention pond. That's
Because I understand what you were saying, I was trying to follow it. The concrete slab that you're gonna build the screen porch on is already there.
it's already there.
So, Tim,
Yes, sir.
how is the lot coverage going from 35 to 43 if the pad's already there?
It's permitted to be 35%.
Yeah.
It's already at 42%.
So he's not adding. a
By
thing.
adding screen in port, we need to bring the thing in to allow that to go.
What
So
happens
you're not
if,
changing
what
the-
happens if we vote no here?
Then the staff member who reviews and approves these applications will have to deny that application.
And what happens to the concrete pad?
Nothing.
Nothing, because it was there prior. Unfortunately, it would just stay as a legal, non-conforming situation. Doesn't need to be brought into conformance per se. Previously, we did not have a very strong presence when it came to permits for lot coverage situations. With the implementation of Citizen Serve, the online portal for that, any type of permit such as this, now more and more people are actually obtaining the proper permits as well as seeing these applications.
But he's not changing the coverage, he's not
No.
changing the drainage, nothing's
No,
gonna
gotta
change.
change it.
But to be able to
Except for the
approve
screen.
it, we do need to bring it into conformance by addressing the variance or not.
Well, he's just gonna put a roof screens around
Over a current concrete pad.
And the other thing, he still has, if he took his hot tub out, would he be in? conformance?
No, that's 120 square feet. Like I've done all the numbers. That would taking the cover off the hot tub would only get me to about 40%. Then if I take that sidewalk out, that gets me to about 39%, 0.7. And if I take the existing amount of concrete off the edge that I'm not needing to be under my room, then I get to about 38.8%. And that's the best I could do and really still be able to get that. Like I said, I don't want the screen and porch up against the fence. It doesn't make any sense. I need it to have a little bit in the middle of the back of the house. So
Oh, yeah. No.
And the percentages you're coming up with, is that including what you and to acquire by.
No,
adverse
no,
possession?
no. Once I possess that area that's in that, then I'm at 10,000 square feet for the lot, and everything that exists right now is inside of 35%.
Okay, so we're not using
No, we're not using those numbers. I'm just going off of, in fairness to you guys, what the numbers are, what I officially own today. And I think if you even, in worst case, you only allow me to keep it at 39% so I can proceed with my project, I can live with that. But it just means they're demolishing good concrete, taking, I mean, it is what it is. I can accept that because I really need this screen enforced to stay in this house. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to move.
I don't see that we're here to determine whether you.
No, I get it.
No,
No, I understand.
Our
Just-
only-
Yeah. In South Carolina, I need these bugs I've tried everything to kill me. I can't.
I'm gonna move that we approve the variance. Second.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I made that motion, I'm gonna vote for it, in spite of the fact that I articulated strongly a feel for, for following the rules on these things, and it's important to not impact drainage, but the fact is, we're not impacting drainage. So,
And I agree with you. I think it's important to differentiate the way we voted in the past, because this already has coverage there. We're not adding to what it's been.
so not a great deal of adverse precedent here.
But when you look at, where that water, the runoff is gonna go, where it goes, it's not gonna be impacting the community.
I mean, we've had these discussions about other ones where, this 5 or 6%, okay, it's not a big deal, but it's a precedent. Cumulatively it has an impact, but the fact is the concrete's out already.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Passed. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Joe.
The second item under new business is TMS 137-02-14007, 603 West Richardson Avenue, Zone GR2 General Residential, owned by Denise Harrison. This is a variance request to decrease the required side setback from 20 feet to 2 feet, increase the permitted accessory structure height from 20 feet to 21 feet, and increase the permitted accessory structure size from 50% of the primary building footprint to 1% of the footprint is construction of a detached garage. Ordinance sections 2.7.4B, 2.7.5B, and 3.5.2A2. Let me scroll on down to that for you. So staff's comments are as follows. Staff feels that the applicant does not meet all four criteria and that a hardship is not present. Extraordinary conditions do not exist based upon the size of the property. With better site planning, it may be possible to meet the setback. The height of the structure is based on the slope of the roof and the interior proposed mezzanine within the building. The size of the accessory structure could be reduced to meet the size requirements, but would not meet the needs of the applicant. Other property in the area do not have similar lot shapes. This is a unique property with a long history. The applicant's desire to preserve the trees and existing structures on site contributes to the unique nature of this property and possible need for variance. Utilization of the property may be reduced but not eliminated due to the required setback being met. It may be possible with a smaller structure that the setback would be able to be met while meeting the goals of preserving the trees and existing structures. And detriment will not be caused to other properties by the issuance of this variance on this property.
All right, could you go back up to the overview? Keep going.
This one or the other? The aerial view or the lot line view?
I'd like to see the area. I think gives you a better feel for. Because you see where the house, where Richardson and name of that street?
Palmetto,
Palmetto.
Palmetto,
Yep.
on the corner,
South Palmetto
South
Street.
Palmetto.
Give you an idea of what's in there. 'Cause you can't see that much from the street. Because of all the growth. Then could you move that up then to the drawing?
Yes, sir.
Right there. No.
Oh, this one here.
That gives you an idea of what's in there. Because you really look at, you look at it from the corner back there, and that's the house in the middle, but you can see the cottages.
It's missing a couple little buildings. It's missing a couple little buildings. The issue is we want a garage, because I have some collector cars I want to put in there. And when we started this project, we went to the BAR, and they told us it would have to look like the house. It would have to look, because the house is on the historic register, and there's also a privy, one of 3 that are left in existence in the country, that's also on the property. So those 2 cannot be touched. And the location of the garage is in the back corner between I bought pictures, better pictures. Can I give
Sure.
everybody, or?
You're talking about where you want to put it is right here, right?
Yes, I actually made copies of all the pages. That was the old one. I shrunk it down from that. I gave you that.
Wrong one.
That was the original. That the bar approved, the preliminary. It said 1, 2, 3, 4 doors. It said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, these have 4.
Okay, so those, we want the 4 doors are the correct ones. All right, so on the first page, you can see, or where the shaded part is where we want to put it. Now, the problem that we're having is that an average garage is 25 feet deep. And then you need back out space when you back the car out. Well, what we run into is this 1830s pump house that's here. And then this little square box back here is a smokehouse from the 1830s. That's actually going to be part of the garage. It's going to be attached to the new structure. We're going to incorporate that. So they can't be moved. One, the pump house can't be moved because the floor is almost 200 years old.
Which one is the pump house?
This little square one. Yes. So the back driveway comes off Palmetto, and it would run straight to the back behind the big trees. There's some big trees there that we don't want to take out. They're significant trees, and that pump house can't be moved. So I needed the setback because if I moved it, so when I built the fence, I built the fence 1 foot inside the property line. Just so I'd be able to maintain it on both sides and never have an issue with it. You know, I'd be able to take care of it myself. But it doesn't give enough room with the setback to be able to get a car out anywhere. The other problem is moving this and turning it around. Back in the back empty area here, there's 2 spots on the property, one right next to the house, and in this big open area on the right-hand side. And in the back, there's camellias, and there's 7 camellias on the property that are tagged, and they're the last camellias that are in existence of that breed. So there's guys that come out and they monitor because they're the last ones, and they're trying to figure out how to make new ones, you know, so they can duplicate that breed. They've probably been there for 150 years. So, you know, we don't want to tear any of that out because those were old English gardens
When we got the house 5 years ago, we restored it completely. I mean, it looks like a museum when you go inside. We did all the property, put the driveways where the driveways were. We just changed them from brick to dirt, from dirt to brick, and all 150-year-old brick. So there's not any other place feasible on the lot to put a garage. And we just need a garage. I mean, the house, there's nowhere to park the cars. I mean, they get full of pollen, and it's just a mess. And so I need the variance for the back. Now the height, to make it look like the house, the White Gables house, with the eaves on, or I don't know what you would call them, the dormers on the top. Those are exactly the same as the ones that are on the main house. And that was part of our thing when we worked with the Bureau of Architectural Review, that they wanted it to look like the house. So it really is going to look like a barn. And I need the setback and the height. So the setback so we can get cars in and out, and the height so it matches the house.
But this is actually really taller than the house too.
No,
No,
not even close. It's not taller than this little cottage that's over here. I think this little cottage is actually 22.5 feet tall. And that one, I mean, that one is right on the property line. I mean, that one's sitting right on the. And, I heard what they said, shrink it. And I have shrunk it. I have shrunk it down, but shrinking the size of it isn't going to stop what you need in actual space to get cars in and out of a building, because you need to have, some distance behind you. And the only way to do it would be to take out the significant trees here and move that pump house. And there's just no way we can.
You would need variance on 3 issues. One is the height, address that. One is the setback. We've talked about that. The third is just the relative size relative to the
Square foot of the main
relative-
house.
Relative to the main house. So I guess my question is, yeah, these 4 doors there, what's this whole structure for? The rest of that?
Okay, so there's, this is a 2-car garage here. So, and then there's a sitting room right there. And then that little smokehouse, that 1830 smokehouse, all would go on this side. This part, I have plenty of room because there's no buildings, over here. And the size, when you look at the main house is 5,100 square feet. That's I think the exact is 5,034 square feet. This is under roof 27, so it's a little over 50%. But we were saying 151%. I didn't understand that.
Well, it's a square, it's going to be this ground coverage square footage.
Based on the footprint of the main house, not the total square foot.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the footprint on the main house is.
So how many stories?
3.
So roughly a third. So 1,700 or something like that. Yeah. And how big is the garage?
The garage is 2782.
Tim, this is zone G2,
GR2.
GR2. What's the minimum lot size for GR2? Like half an acre or something? Like
Yeah,
that?
20,000 square.
So arguably, you could subdivide this, build a garage on part of it.
No.
No.
You would have to have a primary structure. I mean, if you, with the number of structures on this property, it's conceivable he could subdivide it and make something else the primary structure. The problem is, it's just the sheer size of it compared to the footprints of the other buildings. unfortunately, you cannot build an accessory structure without a primary structure. So garages, sheds, other things like that, even if there's common ownership on adjacent properties, it can't be built.
But if you lived in part of it, then it would be a different story.
What's that?
If you lived in that little portion. No, okay.
Is this the playground? in back up?
No, that's 609. What's your name? Yeah, it's right. The next piece after that would be the playground.
It's hard to tell, from the street.
Oh,
You know,
I walk by here regularly. Can't see anything.
Well, on the property?
Much though I'd like to.
Oh, no, you guys can come in and she'll show you the house. She's done a phenomenal job. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like you walk back into 1830 when you open it. All the furniture is from 1800s. It's just crazy.
Chairman, I have a question. Bar has already approved this.
They approved the big one and they told me, well, you're gonna have to go get some permits. So, but when I went back and did all the measurements, there was no way I was gonna get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along. That didn't fit. So I shrunk it down. And now I'm supposed to go back. Actually, I'm filling out the application to be on their not the July meeting. If I get the permits, they're okay to build it. And then they'll give me the final approval.
But
He
they-
still needs final BAR approval for whatever the final version is, depending upon what happens.
But you've got preliminary.
Preliminary,
approval
yes.
of the larger structure.
As far as I'm aware, they had done conceptual review. I did not see a preliminary approval on it, but yeah, that can be done together depending upon the design.
Alex, is
Just probably some general things. I'm Alex McIntosh. My family used to own that.
Oh, okay. Good.
So I'm familiar with. In fact, as familiar as you're talking about, my dad did a lot of graft.
Yeah, they've got us so paranoid. We have the guys that take care of Angel Oak come out and they take care of the tree in the front and look at the camellias for us. If we don't want to.
In fact, just from 1940s, 1952, my grandmother ran it as an inn, what we would call bed and breakfast today. And talked about a garage, it reminded me, there were a garage or two on that property. It's like a 3-car, 5-car garage, but it was like more, if you took that and turned it 90, it was more like that. But I guess you gotta set to suit what you desire. I mean, but already gotten this far, you might as well stick to what you plan. So, just wanted to know that when it was in the end, that yes, we parked the cars in the garages and stayed in the house or the cottages on the property.
We found the remnants of those. They had a brick foundation, this is brick that's in the ground. It looked like there were buildings of some kind. You can tell the garage. There was some kind of buildings.
It may have been. You said smokehouse. You said there was that may be brick, and there's another well, it's a wall around it, brick. My mom laid that out as a patio on that site. Salvaged bricks from all kinds of various places.
any other questions, discussion? Anyone?
Yeah. Do we have any evidence from neighbors who have an issue with the setback here?
I talked to Tim Pye, who owns the property. He told me if he needed to come down, he would come down or write a letter, whatever. As a matter of fact, I had to, or Mrs. Harrison had to sign something for him to get his, because on that same wall, his setback was off a couple feet or whatever. I'm not sure what the deal was. Actually, it was the cottage that he was talking about actually was a White Gables cottage. It's just when they subdivided the property, those cottages went.
Staff didn't get any phone calls from any neighbors concerning
And as well, I wouldn't expect it as well protected as a piece of property is.
Yeah. Okay. I move that we approve this. Any discussion?
I'm gonna say we, first off, I think that at least 3 of the 4 conditions have been met that are required. I think extraordinary conditions, I would argue this is extraordinary circumstances. Other lots aren't like this. It's extraordinary because of the historic property, because it's on the national register, because it's large, because it's long protected. The viewscape is protected from neighbors. It's other properties aren't this shape. What was the 4th?
detriment. They wouldn't, yes. So they
No.
wouldn't impact any other properties.
It wouldn't, no, it wouldn't cause any problem against any other property. Clearly, the third condition says gets rid of any that the variance is needed to provide any economic value is kind of not met here. But on the other hand, we just heard that there used to be 5-car garages here, so we got historical precedent. So I'm yammering on here. I'll vote for it.
And it's gonna look like a barn when you open it. It's not gonna be finished. It's gonna have the old barn wood, and where it looks like there was hay and horses and carriages put in. Except my carriages are gonna be in 1953 Cadillacs.
And the fact is, no neighbors can see it.
No.
Well, what about when you have a party? All right, any other discussion? All right. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? None? Good.
Could I get a copy of that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Excellent.
The third item on the under new business is TMS 388-1400031 Alpine Road. Zone PUD Plan Development District owned by Winfield LLC. Variance request to reduce the required side yard setback from 10 feet to 8 feet for the construction of the townhome, ordinance section 2.10. All right, so looking down, undeveloped property, right corner here at the curve of Alpine Road. Forest. It's actually pretty representative of current conditions there. There are a couple more townhomes that have that are nearing completion over here. The need for a setback variance was determined during the application for building permit. Staff feels the applicant does not meet all 4 criteria and that hardship is not present. Extraordinary conditions do not exist based upon the size of the property. The other townhome buildings have been adjusted to meet setbacks for the development. Other property in the area do have similar lot shape. Utilization of the property is reduced but not eliminated due to existing setbacks. This should have been addressed at the planning stage of the development. And the plat should have been drawn to meet all possible layouts for the available buildings being offered by the builder at this development. Detriment will not be caused to other properties by the issuance of this variance on this property. If I didn't mention prior, they want to reduce the side yard setback from 10 feet to 8 feet for the construction of the townhome. So this is the overall subdivision plat. We're looking at this here. individual. Here you can see where the corner of the building comes over the edge and into that required 10-foot setback there. And that's just flat. So
Yes, sir.
We have, this property was done back in 2008. When it was done back then, it was a totally different layout. They had it redesigned. We have been building these for a few years, about 3 years now. When we put this one together, because across the street, we had to redesign one of the houses on the other 6-unit building, right there directly across from there. Yes. So we made a mistake on that one. So we made sure we got it right. This one is the same setup with the same homes, but there's just like 1.4 feet of that last house that goes over the setback. And it backs up to a pond, and the other property is a pretty big strip of grass that goes through both of those. So it wouldn't show up as being way over a setback line. It's still within the property line by 8.6. So that's what we're trying to do here, is just build the last section of it.
What's this? TH? No, no.
T8 49 townhome.
We're talking about this, right?
We're talking about 49.
49 through 53,
Right.
but it would be for this lot here,
Right.
which is TH 49.
And I had the same thought, just to,
Slide it over.
yeah, but we'd have to move all the property lines in order to do that.
I don't know why these were drawn and go like that off the front.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of strange that.
Like I said, they did all this back in 2008. And it was a whole different design of a townhome that we were going to do back then. It was a big parking pad in the front of the townhomes to where they wouldn't have a garage or anything. They all have single car garages with them now, so people can get out of the rain.
Am I seeing something wrong? This right there looks wider than this right here.
Yeah.
I know.
Is it?
Yeah, and it's the angles is what's making that corner different. Yeah.
So is this edge of the building parallel to that property? Or is it parallel to this?
Yes,
property?
if you look at see, the reason why it's on the angle is because all the rest of them are.
So
Right. So that's like 12 feet or so.
on the front, it's 12.
In front, we got plenty of room. But you cannot, because of the property lines, you cannot
Okay.
shift it
So-
around.
So how much of for what portion of that side of the building would you be up?
I'd say about 10 feet where the covered porch is.
Yeah, the line just kind of follow it because, you know,
There's two.
lower quality.
Is this the
Yeah.
I think it's right around the screen porch
Yeah,
area.
like right about here, so it would be about a total of 10, maybe 12 feet.
So back 10 feet, 10 or 12 feet of the property
Are
are
encroaching.
abutting into.
Right.
And
The
because
very corner is what's over it.
Because it's greater than 1% of the minimum of that requirement, it has to come. If it was less than that, you know, if it was 6 inches, we could do it.
Right.
administratively,
Correct.
But we need to bring it now because it's greater than that.
It's
Pretty minimal. curve.
yes. It's 1.4.
18 inches.
Yeah.
18 inches for 10 feet.
Right.
Well, 18 inches at one end, at the front end, it's probably this far. So
Minimum.
Because it does take forever.
Any other question?
And that, I mean, that's a pretty wide open lot. on the other
Yeah, it
side. So
is.
It's
Yeah.
15 or 20 feet to
Mhm.
the property line.
Yes, sir.
So,
Because the other building is running parallel with the angle of that. So between them, there's quite a bit of property.
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, so see, that one goes along that with the other, it's a weird setup,
Yeah.
but it has plenty of yard between the two. So we're basically, if 6 inches is what you guys would let us get away with, we're asking for 12 inches.
Where the power boxes are up there.
Power boxes are in the front.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know where,
Are they in that, the non-building area?
yeah, and the easements up front,
Here in this SCE.
yes.
Across the front, they're gonna be located somewhere.
Well, there is already a big box. in there. That was my question.
There's an underground,
Hmm?
there is an underground that goes up the property line and goes into the side for the, all 4 of them, or 6 of them to have power. That's
I'm
what,
just talking about the big.
yeah, they're already there
Right.
and they're up in the front.
Are they in front of the building?
No,
Or they
they're,
in the-
they're off to the side in
The
the
side, okay.
easement areas,
That was
same
fine.
way with the ones across the street.
Okay,
They're like on the property line between the two, so
all right.
it looks good actually out there. We've done great with them, so,
As good as you can.
yeah, with what we had, so.
I like the right with the room with that.
All right, just to make sure I'm clear. So Tim, you said if it's within 10%, it wouldn't even be here. So if it was within a foot, it wouldn't be here, but it's,
This is
Foot and a
greater than
half.
a foot.
so it's got that extra
Yeah.
6 inches. Okay.
We went up to 2 feet because just in case there's a
Right.
little bit more wiggle that needs to happen on it. We're
Any other questions? Discussion?
move that we approve this request. Second.
Any other? Comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That leaves you two guys.
I'm here more, I expect there, my question is about what you're gonna address, so I'll.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
All right, the fourth and final item on the agenda under new business is PMS 130150907. This is 313 West 4th North Street, zone NMX, which is neighborhood mixed use owned by DB Properties LLC. This is variance request to allow parking in the front yard within section 2.5.6A. Go to the staff report. If you could bear with me a minute. This issue is identified during the construction process, and with the addition of the buildings in the front yard by the applicant, staff feels that the applicant does meet all 4 criteria and that a hardship is present. Extraordinary conditions do exist on the property. It's staff's opinion that because this is a conversion of a residential structure to commercial property, there is a hardship based on the size of the property and the configuration of structures on the lot. This prevents the establishment of parking to the rear of the structure, which would meet the requirements. Other property in the area have similar situations. City utilization of the property is not eliminated, but will be only slightly diminished. Without parking, it will be extremely difficult for this property to be utilized as a commercial property. And the detriment should not be caused to other properties by the issuance of this variance on this property. Other properties within the corridor already have parking in front yard areas previously developed prior to the passage of BZA requirements. If the parking is designed per the SCDOT requirements, it will be less impactful on traffic and safety in the area. So, scroll on down and show you what is being proposed.
My question is that that parking space is into off the property though, right?
Yes, and you will need to get SCDOT encroachment permits to be able to have designated parking spaces within the right of way. Problem is you can't move them up any further closer to the building to keep them completely out of the right of way. So it does present a number of issues that will still need to be worked with DOT and the town in regards to this, and we are in that process at the moment. But it does need to be addressed because unfortunately, well, there's just no way to get parking to the rear. And even at that, if they were able to get to the rear yard really isn't.
There's no tree there.
conducive for it either. There's a tree smack dab in the middle of the yard that I would say is probably a grand tree.
It's a big oak tree, yeah.
So we run into that issue. So
So there would have to be bumpers put there.
we would prefer to keep parking off of the critical root zone of Grand Oak.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh, yes, they would have to put bumpers
Because
there.
right
We
now-
already had, if you look in the pictures, these,
Yeah, but they're not angled.
no, this was installed improperly to begin with. They were operating under the assumption that this parking had previously been there and permitted. It was not. It was always informal parking that had been utilized by the residential occupants. It was identified as it was coming down to the end on its permit, and we realized that these millings had been added to provide parking in the front. Obviously, it does not currently, with this 90-degree head-in parking, meet SCDOT requirements, have been updated over the years. I know that there is 90-degree in this corridor. They do not allow it. Period. They just flat out say it's in their written policy.
So as we're discussing the variance, there's no need for us to be talking about things like those rules and regulations. All we're talking about is can they have parking in front?
Yes, that is correct.
They have to meet all these other requirements that we have nothing to say about.
Yeah, the physical layout, how it's oriented on the lawn. Really what we're here to discuss is whether or not they can move any of the parking within that front yard area that's between the front of the building and the front property line that fronts on the right.
And the staff position is that this is a hardship because this is in fact zoned to be a commercial property, but there's no way to have a commercial property without parking, and there's no way to have parking in the back. This is it.
Yeah, that is correct. That was my assessment.
We haven't given you a chance to talk. No, you said everything I would have said. Well, yeah, I mean, the lot is very small. It's 7,667 square feet, so it's 0.18 of an acre. Went into this project thinking I was going to remodel it as a residential house, got into it, had some interest from a commercial standpoint, and that's when we kind of changed gears. So in the front there where those millings are, Tim had said it, but after we got over there and started looking at this, the whole front was asphalt. Underneath some weeds and some grass that over the years have grown through it. But that area that you see right there was the exact area that has been there as asphalt. The asphalt was in bad shape. We tore it up. We went back in with the ROC base
and put down some road millings and then the bumpers. So everything's kind of as it was. And like Tim said, I've been speaking with Wes at DOT. I think we're about to the end of this encroachment permit. Obviously, the 90-degree parking, I thought conforming with everybody else that parks out there like that. You know, really everybody in the street.
Yeah.
Palmetto Primary Care, AT&T, all the dentists, Piggly Wiggly, everybody else parks like that.
It's a policy change from DOT in the last at least 3 years. They've
Okay.
been very adamantly opposed to any
Right.
kind of 90-degree parking. They require that if you have it, that drivers can back out and not impact the travel lane. So that is why, you know, with the 90-degree, it's just impossible. So that's why they are requiring this.
That's getting an interesting part of it. You might want to.
Okay.
I have a property that's very similar. I bought the lot behind Oscar's
You
restaurant.
signed,
Oh, yes, I have.
who are you?
My name is Robert Brooks. And we just put ours on the market, and people who were thinking about turning it into a commercial property are asking what are the stipulations for the parking. So I figured I'd come to this meeting and see how this question is answered, and be able to give them a little bit of insight.
Anything else?
The only other question, and it wasn't really on any of this application, but after hearing some of the other stuff, and we're talking about pervious and impervious and runoff, all important things. The folks that want to move into this building is an audiologist. And so he does have some elderly people that show up. And he's concerned about the millings, which at this point, I believe are considered pervious. He's wanting to maybe put down asphalt or concrete in that area just so there's no hazards of any kind. As it stands right now with the concrete in the buildings, we're right at about 2,000 square feet on a 667 square foot lot, 0.18. So that brings you to about 26% ratio.
You shouldn't have any problem. It's neighborhood mixed use. I'm having a hard time recalling exactly what the lot coverage limit is.
Okay.
But one of those, with it being private on the private property, and it's going to be an odd situation because you're going to be overlapping into the right of way. That discussion will have to be had with DOT as to how, but one of your ADA accessible spaces is going to have to be a hard surface at the front.
Right.
So that's a discussion as to design and et cetera that needs to be discussed with them.
Okay, so if by pouring asphalt there, and like you said, I didn't put this in my calculations, we would be into the right of way with it, but I'd be pushing 37% impervious
Yeah,
as a number.
like I said, right off the top of my head, I don't remember the particular lot coverage limit. I don't remember. But I can look it up.
Okay.
Bear with me a minute.
I can tell you're much more efficient with this page than I am.
Huh?
I'd still be logging in.
Well, getting there is one thing, and finding something is another.
That's right.
No, it's pretty easy. If you want to know setbacks and district standards, you go to chapter 2.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
You know,
Who didn't know that? Well, and then you get into the tables. and-
Neighborhood mixed use. Your maximum lot coverage is 80%.
Well,
Oh, wow. I'm
okay.
just paved over. No, okay, but, okay, perfect.
I told you,
Yeah,
like I said, you're not gonna have a problem with that aspect of it. Even if you pave that whole front portion of it. I don't think that they're gonna let that happen, but, you know,
Right.
we'll have to discuss that.
gotcha. Okay,
But that is, as I said, a discussion with DOT and the engineering department and how that's gonna work.
gotcha. Okay.
I'll move that we approve it.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second that. Really?
all in favor, say aye.
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 Hour,
See you next month.
Me too.